Welcome to Mocktails and Masterpieces with the Indianapolis Chamber Orchestra, sponsored by Anthony Shefferly and Associates. Good evening and welcome to the special episode of Mocktails and Masterpieces. I think they're all a little special, but here we are with Matthew Kraemer, looking forward to our next season, In Motion, which has just been launched earlier this week to the public, and we're excited to kind of share some background information and some insider knowledge about what's to come.
For me, it's always like the announcement of the NFL schedule. You know it's coming, but you just want to see it on paper. And this is obviously the culmination of many, many, many months of work and just putting a jigsaw puzzle together to make sure that all of these things fit. And so I'm thrilled with the outcome here. I think it's one of our best seasons yet, and we've got some terrific guest artists and some great music in store.
Absolutely. So, in addition to, of course, our traditional season, the Masterwork season that begins in October, we do have two Parks concerts coming up in the late summer, early fall, depending on how you divide time, on August 28th and 29th at Riverside and Holiday Park. So looking forward to those free performances and showcasing some community partners, and kind of giving a little bit of Matthew always incorporates some themes that tie to our upcoming season. So looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. But maybe you can talk about the opening concert, Ben-Hur.
So our silent movie has been a component of our season for over a decade, obviously, and it's one of our most popular programs. And as we were talking about that puzzle piece, this is one of the things that shifted. It had traditionally been in winter and in March, and we thought it'd be a terrific idea to open the season with an early blockbuster. Everyone is familiar with the Charlton Heston Ben-Hur, but from 1925, this silent movie Ben-Hur was really groundbreaking film. And it's a departure for us. This past year we did Gold Rush, Charlie Chaplin celebrating its 100th birthday. Now we're celebrating, an biblical action film, if you will, with Ben-Hur. So 100 years old, hard to believe, but this has a film score by Carl Davis, who was prolific in providing scores to silent movies. There was no original score for this film, as there weren't for so many. And Carl Davis, who passed away only a few years ago, has been on ICO programs before. He wrote the film score for The General, Buster Keaton, also two or three of the Harold Lloyd films that we performed, but we've not played the music of Carl Davis in several years. And I think it is a really terrific film score to accompany this almost 2.5 hour film. I mean, it's got the great chariot race, the blaring horns, Roman centurions. It's a marvelous film, which I've enjoyed revisiting, and it's going to be one of the biggest orchestras we put on stage. So it's almost like we'd have to call ourselves the Indianapolis Symphonic Chamber Orchestra in some respects. So really excited about this one because, again, these silent movies are so popular, and we've done such a diverse programming in this, from Frankenstein, Joan of Arc, the Gold Rush, as I mentioned. This is going to be one of the most entertaining, I'm sure.
Oh my God. I think of all the films that we've done, many of them have been remade. However, this one has been remade 2 additional times. So there's 3 versions of Ben-Hur. One as recent as 2014, which I have not seen. I've only seen the Charlton Heston version. So I'm excited to kind of explore this early iteration of the theme Ben-Hur.
As am I.
Yeah, so next on the season would be our November concert, which is actually preceded by our very special Link Up Education concert, which I'm sure we'll talk about on another mocktail. But we'll be doing Miami in Motion is what we've coined the title of that concert. But it has the Miami Concerto by Karen Lefrak, and then also a number of other dance works. So I'll let you kind of talk about that, and as we came to that motion component.
I'm thrilled that Sharon is joining us in Indianapolis. She is, for decades, been the leading classical guitar player, not only in this country, but abroad as well. She's pivotal in many commissions for new works for guitar. So she's as far as we have in classical music, a superstar. And she's been championing this new work by Karen Lefrak. It's been recorded but not released yet with the Orchestra of St. Luke. And her agent brought this to my attention, and I gave it a listen. It's marvelous. So, of course, we at the Chamber Orchestra love to champion new music. Here's a work that's just entering the repertoire, played by a superstar. I am excited for the Miami Concerto. It's got lots of great Cuban influences musically in that. And I paired it with some other kind of eclectic, colorful works. Jacques Ibert is a composer, which I adore very much, a French composer who's known as an eclectic. And this Divertissement is definitely one of his most eclectic pieces. It's just zany. It's got a little bit of cabaret in it, some whistles, police whistles at the end. It just kind of flies off the cuff. And it's a terrific work for a very small chamber ensemble. And in the second half, we're celebrating or commemorating rather, two different anniversaries. The 150th birthday of Maurice Ravel in 2025. This Tombeau de Couperin, beautiful work written in dedication of his countrymen from 2 centuries apart, Francois Couperman, and then Dmitri Shostakovich, who passed away 50 years ago. His ballet suite #1, which again is just sardonic and kind of twisted, sarcasm in music, but full of great wit and humor. So those two pairs, I think, are appropriate on the second half. But Sharon is really the centerpiece of this program with this great new Miami Concerto.
And I do believe the launch of that recording is going to be June, the first week of June, maybe June 9th. So we'll be sure to share that on our social media if you want to hear some excerpts or some of that work prior to our performance of it in November. So Christmas is back with a little bit of new and a lot of what everyone absolutely adores.
I'm talking about staples. This is probably the longest enduring staple of the ICO repertoire, going back probably close to our founding, where we perform Messiah. And we've done it several different ways. Traditionally, we had always performed virtually the entire oratorio. In recent years, we've maintained the Christmas portion, part one, and changed the first half, whether it was Bach or instrumental works. I'm delighted with the new work that we're presenting here. It's not new, but it's new for us. Gerald Finzi's In Terra Pax. Finzi was an English composer known probably most for his choral works, and this is a beautiful setting for Peace on Earth. And then the Corelli Christmas Concerto on that portion as well. But we did bring back only in the most recent few years the Messiah Sing Along 2, which has always been very, very popular. So grab your choral books and join us, for the great choruses in part one. So it's, this is part of the traditional element of ICO. And I love it because if there's any work along with Nutcracker that I don't mind coming back to every year, it's Messiah, because they're masterworks.
It's the reason why they're a favorite for many people and why it's a holiday tradition for many of our patrons and our community. So I'm glad that we have our traditional concert night, and then of course we all enjoy singing along on our Sunday matinee performance of that. So we enter 2026, our next concert. So let's hop to that.
In January, Michael Shapiro will be joining us. He's our composer in residence for the 25-26 season. Every year, we alternate a different composer whose music we perform. In this case, we're recording and premiering two brand new works by Michael. The first I'm very excited about. It's his violin concerto, which was written for acclaimed violinist Tim Fain, who will be joining us. And he's actually given a programmatic title, At the Shore of the Sea. Michael completed this work some time ago, and it just hasn't been performed yet. So we're delighted to give the world premiere of it, in addition to making this premiere recording of it, along with a concert opener that he calls Zoomies, which is dedicated to his two dogs. And I can imagine, I've not seen the score for this yet, but I can imagine what that must sound like if his dogs are anywhere near as animated as mine is. So those are two works by Michael, which will premiere and record, and then we're pairing it with Felix Mendelssohn's two works of his, the Hebrides Overture to open the program, and then his Symphony #1, which is performed, but not with the great regularity that the third, fourth, and fifth symphonies are. He wrote it when he was 15 years old. So it's just astounding. Mendelssohn's genius, of course, his octet and his Midsummer Night's Dream came shortly thereafter, but his first symphony is still a relatively mature work and put together brilliantly. There's some great music there. So Mendelssohn and Shapiro on our January program.
Yeah, I can tell you I was not writing a symphony at 15.
My parents couldn't get me off Nintendo at 15. So
Exactly. It was like, oh, it's time to practice.
yeah.
Oh. Um, so beyond January, we look forward to our March concert. It's a big jump in time, but we of course have our very special orchestration fundraiser earlier in March, and then in later March, a special performance. Well, championed really by new music with Stacey Garrett and a special grant from the Virginia B. Toolman Foundation through the League of American Orchestras. And I'll let you talk about that concert, which we've titled The Gardens of Spain.
I'm very excited about this program because of that Toolman Commission that you mentioned. ICO received several years ago its first Toolman Commission for women composers, but this one is different, and this one was very, very competitive because I think Toolman virtually tripled the amount of commission money available to the orchestras in order for a composer to write a substantial length work. Usually, it had capped out at about 10 minutes, which makes it more or less an opener of a program or part of a half. In this case, Toolman's mission was to commission a work that would fill out an entire half of a program. So the longer the work, the more substantial the commissioning fee needs to be. So I know that many orchestras applied for this. ICO is honored to work with Stacey Garrett, a composer that has a history with ICO. We performed the world premiere of her saxophone concerto, Krakatoa, which was originally a viola concerto about this famous volcanic eruption. We performed that at the Indiana State Contemporary Music Festival. I've worked with Stacey in New Orleans. Have received another Toolman commission down here for her, but that's not a commissioning. This is more of a repeat performance. So I'll be working with Stacey a couple times, but this is the one that I'm most excited about because she always tells stories with her music. And in this case, she's very interested in colors. So I can't wait to see what she's going to do with this particular piece, movements with various colors and themes intertwined with that. But you mentioned the title of it is Nights in the Gardens of Spain. And our guest soloist for the program is Gabriela Martinez, who's a marvelous, marvelous pianist. And this is one of her major works that she performs, Manuel de Falla's marvelous piano concerto. So we're delighted to welcome Gabriela to Indianapolis. And also on that program, we have Aaron Copland's 3 Latin American sketches and Louis Moreau Gottschalk, his Symphony No. 2, which I can just say that a few words about Gottschalk. He's a eccentric composer, as if there ever, I know I mentioned that about Ibert, but he's was from New Orleans, only lived to be 40 years old. But at the time of Berlioz and Liszt, I mean, he was coming up with the most insane ideas. It's hard to believe that his first symphony, Night in the Tropics, was written just a few years after Beethoven had died, and it calls for a massive orchestra with Caribbean percussion. So we'll perform his second symphony called Montevideo. So we don't get to hear a lot of Gottschalk in the concert hall, but a marvelous Creole American composer there.
Is that the Montevideo in Spain or Argentina?
Argentina. He he did live in France for quite a while, but then was in South America at the last parts of his life here. So a lot of Afro-Cuban influences in much of his music.
Absolutely. So our next concert really needs no introduction. We've been working with Dance Kaleidoscope since before I worked here. I think our first collaboration with them was in 2019 or 18. So once again, we're working with them on a concert that's called American Sound. It's not a patriotic concert, although all the composers featured are Americans. So I'll let you talk about that.
So that's one of the things just to point out through the course of the season, a number of American works. There are always American works, but we do have many American works this season because of the 250th anniversary in 2026 of our country. But this is always the delightful collaboration, the dialogue that goes back and forth between us and DK about what repertoire. And there have been themes over the years. We've done Gershwin, we've done Ravel. And so we're returning to Gershwin here, his American in Paris with choreography by David Hochoy. And this is terrific, a terrific piece. It's a huge orchestra, but there's a great reduction by Ian Farrington that maintains the soul and the character of the original, but reduces the instrumental forces so that we can get dancers on stage. Otherwise, there'd be no way that you could have Gershwin's original orchestra out front. So that's a famous piece, which people obviously know very, very well, from the taxi horns in the orchestra to the great themes and dance rhythms. But interesting enough, there are two minimalist composers that are on the program right before. John Adams is probably the most famous living minimalist composer, or even frankly, the most famous living American composer. And his work, Shaker Loops, written for strings, is a work that Joshua put into the DK repertoire just recently. So I know they're delighted to be able to dance this to live music and not recorded music. And then Philip Glass, another one of the living titans of American minimalism, will perform the funeral from Akhenaten. It's another great swirling piece of his. I just heard another film score of Glass's the other day, which was just terrific. I mean, his film scores are very similar to his concert works, how they kind of begin with a kernel, and then from there, this kind of sound world generates out of that. It's a really terrific piece. So I'm looking forward to seeing what DK does with it.
Me too. I know that collaboration is a favorite of our audiences, and it's a favorite of mine. I love seeing how versatile the music that we play is, and then the multidisciplinary connections are really meaningful and enjoyable to watch. It's a great concert to bring young people to, because there's so much visually happening on stage. Built a
And I
great
always quip, Dana, that I'm the only one that never gets to see it. The orchestra is watching the dancers, the audience are watching the dancers, and my back is turned to them the whole time. So I catch a glimpse over my shoulders whenever I can, but it is
Yeah,
visually
it's a
stunning.
loss for you. It's a gain
That's all
for
right.
us, but a loss for you.
That's right.
And then we close the season with a really special event as well. We'll be leaving the Schrott, and we'll be performing at the Madam Walker Legacy Center over on Indiana Avenue. For what's called a musical play, The Chevalier by Bill Barkley. And I'll let you talk about that some more, Matthew, and we can kind of talk about the logistics of that concert for ticket buyers as well.
That's right. I mean, this is the integrated mediums here that we're talking about. Whether it's dance on stage or a theatrical production. Bill Barkley wrote this wonderful screenplay, this wonderful script to tell the story of a musical figure who's thankfully coming back into our consciousness. For centuries, he was really forgotten. But Chevalier Saint George was a fascinating character. He was the first prominent musician of color to really gain fame, not only in France, but in continental Europe as well. He was regarded as one of the greatest fencers in Europe. He was a teacher and instructor of Marie Antoinette. He knew Mozart. They corresponded with one another, and he was in the French military. I mean, just in a very learned man, and his music is terrific. It's you'll hear his quirky violin concertos, which are full of kind of unexpected humor, the way that Haydn can interject. And then his symphonies. We performed the Second Symphony a few times here with the chamber orchestra, but this play is intended to have music interspersed throughout. So you'll hear great examples of his music, from sonatas for piano and violin to the full orchestral works. It's acted by, the role of Chevalier is acted by Brendan Elliott, who was with us a few years ago for a DK collaboration, served as guest concertmaster. He performs in the Virginia Symphony. His brother, Sterling Elliott, is a marvelous cellist who also soloed with us a few years back. And so there's several characters, several actors that join us, and it's a total immersion between the theatrical element and then when the music starts. And I'm personally delighted to be back in the Madam Walker. One of my first musical memories in Indianapolis was what was then the New World Youth Symphony performing on that stage. And I promise you, when we went back to site visit, I thought that it was much smaller than what I remembered, because as a kid, obviously everything is enormous. But it is a beautiful, intimate space on that stage for us to present actors along with Chevalier's great music.
Absolutely. So for tickets for that, they will be included in our season subscription, but additional packages will need to be purchased from the Madam Walker directly, and we'll have all those links live when that happens in August. So tickets for this season are available online. You can purchase them at icomusic.org. You can give us a call, Oh, 765. Nope, that's the wrong number. 317-940-9607. And we'd be happy to help you choose seats that fit your needs. The Schrott is a fabulous hall. There's not a bad seat in it. And immediately as you come in, you're immediately connected to the orchestra and to the performance on stage. I absolutely love the venue. And we have two other venues this year, of course, in the Madam Walker Legacy Center and in Indiana Landmarks for our Christmas concert. But we hope you join us all season because there's really nothing to be missed. And following this, we'll share just a little quick visual promo of what's to come. And of course, you can visit our website to get even more information.